Hello and welcome to the second video in a series I'm calling Gaming Notes. In the first, I took a look at reviews and how reviews contain both fact and opinion. They're both objective and subjective. I want to continue to look at reviews, even though that first video didn't do the best, because they have so many interesting aspects to them that hold a big significance in the gaming world. Recently, I reviewed a game that has been out for quite some time. The game has had tons of content added to it and is quite different than what it was at release. Due to the internet, games often get many updates like these. Updates that don't just fix bugs, but add content for free to many of the games. Sometimes this can take games that have rocky launches like Cyberpunk 2077 or No Man's Sky and make them good if not great games. Other times in games like Minecraft, Terraria, or Stardew Valley, they build off of games with good reputations and add even more to them. All this led me to wonder about reviews. Do reviews get updates? The answer to this is a bit mixed. It just really seems to depend on the game and the website that does the reviews. Looking at two larger gaming websites out there, IGN and GameSpot, you don't really see a consistent pattern on updated reviews. Let's just take a look at the games I've mentioned. No Man's Sky gets 2 updated reviews from both IGN and GameSpot, and IGN even gets 1 more for the Switch version. So that means there's 4 total reviews for IGN and then 3 for GameSpot. Cyberpunk 2077, on the other hand, has 1 review on GameSpot and 2 on IGN. The ones on IGN, though, don't have anything to do with updates. It's simply about different platform releases. 1 for the PC release and 1 for the console release. Minecraft gets multiple reviews on each site, but they're not based on updates. They're simply for when Minecraft is released on a new system. Terraria is very similar to Minecraft in that the game gets multiple reviews, but is only due to the release on a new system rather than changing things due to updates. Stardew Valley is a little different. It gets only 1 review on GameSpot, but IGN does have 2 reviews, and 1 of these is based on the updated content. Now, I understand that my sample isn't huge here, but I think it shows the inconsistency that updates bring into reviews. Honestly, unless a game is releasing on a new console, most updates to games don't get worked into the review of a game. Sites may talk about a new update or put out news about a new update, but reviews aren't usually affected by these updates. There are places that do help a little bit better with updated reviews. Take Steam, for example. For games that have been out for quite some time, they have a section for all reviews and a place for recent reviews. So a game like No Man's Sky may have a mostly positive rating overall, but recent reviews are very positive, which shows that the game's reputation has improved with recent updates. Now, personally, I think Steam's review system has some flaws to it, which may warrant its own video, but it does still give a general sense of how people are viewing the game, as long as said system isn't abused. Overall though, reviews don't seem to get many updates. Let's change the question a little then. Should reviews change as a game is updated with new content? It may be an easy question to have a yes or no answer to. It isn't quite that simple. At least it's not simple if your answer is yes. If your answer is no, then it is quite simple. You shouldn't change the review for content that comes out after release. Period. The view here is often stated that companies should be able to put out a good product at release and not have to rely on updates to get it to an enjoyable state. Therefore, you shouldn't reward a company by updating a review when they finally get their game playable or to a level that you would rate it higher. While I understand that sentiment, I'm not sure I completely agree with it. Yes, game studios shouldn't rely on updates to make their games complete and actually playable, but I do also think the work companies put in should be recognized. If you take this view, you're also making a number of assumptions. A belief that all updates make a game better, which isn't always the case. That bad games are the only ones that get a lot of content added for free, which is again, not always true. Personally, I do think that updates should be addressed in relation to reviews. As I said earlier though, this isn't quite as simple as it may sound. For starters, this would require reviewers to continually check to see if games they've reviewed had significant updates. That would require quite a bit of work, especially as more and more games add content via updates. I should note here though that I place paid DLC in a bit of a different category, as it is a little easier to keep track of, and since you're paying for it, then it should have a bit of a more focused review on it, at least if it's more than just skins or something that's cosmetic for the game. Even if you do choose to keep track of the games you've played to update reviews, the question becomes what counts as a significant amount of content to warrant a review? How much stuff needs to be added to be worthy of a new update? Some games have updates that add a few things and updates that add a whole lot of new items, and sometimes even more than that, like new mechanics or new bosses or new enemies or things like that. How do you decide which ones get covered? And what if the game is updated but doesn't really change your view of the game? Maybe you already have a high opinion of the game and more stuff just really keeps that at the same. If you've already rated it a 10 or a 9, like more stuff is great, but it's not necessarily changing your opinion of the game. Then if that's the case, what's the point of putting out an update when your review hasn't changed? This is especially true as games seem to get a lot of attention when they are first released, but then people move on to the next release and can forget or just not pay that much attention to games that are already out. With so many games out there, spending time paying attention to updates for older games, making content to give updated opinions, add up to more time than people really have to spend, especially for content creators and reviewers who are trying to keep up with those new games while also trying to juggle in old games. It can get to be quite a lot. This all leaves the matter of updates and reviews in kind of a difficult place. Even as someone who would enjoy updates being factored into the reviews later on, there aren't many solutions that I can think of. You could release a short review update to let people know that the recent update changed your opinion of the game for the better or the worse, but are people going to find that before finding the main review? Another option is trying to keep track of a game at a set amount of time later, like a year after release, looking back at it and see if what updates it's had or if it's had any updates. 5 years, something like that, some kind of period of time that you can look at it, give an updated review, and present it. This would probably be a little bit more work than just doing a quick, like, oh, this update came out, think it's changed my opinion on the game slightly, but probably wouldn't require as much as doing an initial review. But I'm still not really sure how feasible this is in long term. Admittedly, both of these options would probably be easier for larger gaming news sites than for small websites or, for example, little single-person YouTube channels like myself. But I'm not sure if it's still all that feasible either. I guess you can always, choose a different route and review games years later and incorporate what updates have been into that review, like I've done, but that's probably not going to be a very good way to gain a lot of people watching your videos in the first place. So, there's that. So while the video game world has been changed by the internet and the abilities for games to be updated and improved upon, reviews have largely not had that same degree of change. You get things like Steam, which, even though, as I said, I kind of have my own opinions about Steam's review system, but it does at least try to present recent thoughts of the game as opposed to kind of the overall long-term views of the game, which I think is a step in the right direction to show how games can change through its life cycle. There are times that it does break into kind of more mainstream gaming news and gaming journalism, but it's really not applied very consistently. There doesn't seem to be any kind of standard for doing that. So what do you think about the issue? Do you think that updates to games should result in updates to reviews? What ways can you think of for this to happen? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. That's all that I have for this topic for now, so we'll see you in the next video.